Hey there, welcome back. So in this video, what we'll do is we'll try to write APIs. So before even going there, in this use dropzone section, we collected error messages if there are any, but we have not tried to showcase it anywhere. So for that, what we will do is we will try to fit in this after list section. So for that, I'll create one new component called upload error messages. Okay, so in the dashboard component folder itself, so let's create a new file called upload error messages .tsx. Okay, fine. So in this we'll name the component name as same, upload error messages. Okay, and this would be of type messages array of strings or undefined. Okay, yeah, so okay, it should be like this, and yeah, so messages, it's of type string array. Okay, and here we'll render the component, that is we'll wrap around in the box section and give margin top as a 2, and the color, since it's error, we'll give the red color, so that is red 500. Okay, and then inside this text component we'll give the font weight. Okay, I don't know why text. Okay, font weight, I'll give this as a bold, and the error message that we'll be showcasing is there are some errors with your images. Okay, images, and beneath this we will whatever the content is there in messages array, we'll try to showcase here messages. Okay, if not empty only, we will take this as error message, and again wrap this in the box, and the key will give the error message value. So here we'll close this box, and inside this box we will try to replace some content of error message. Okay, if there is any 7 zeros, okay, bytes, will replace with the 10 MB, so MB. Okay, and do the same for many files, to many files max 25. Okay, yeah, so this is the component, and we will export this, export default upload error messages, and I will go back to the uploader component, and there we'll try to use this. We'll try to use just beneath this box. Okay, so here error messages. Okay, if this length is not equal to 0 only, we will showcase this component, that is upload error messages, and we'll pass the error messages array as an input param for this upload error message. Okay, so this is the handling and showcasing of error if encountered any while uploading the images. Okay, fine. So now going to the API section. Before even going to the API section, we have to build a tables in our database. So I'll go to the Prisma schema. So here we'll try to create a new tables called project, and also each project will have a limited short, so that also will have one table, and also we'll allow only to create shorts after successful payment. So those three tables will create, that is project, short and payment. Okay, so let me create that. First, table name is project, and this will have id, and this is of type string, and it's a primary key, and default we will take from CUID. Okay, and the name of the project, this is of type string. Okay, and this is replicate model ID that is associated with this project. This would be of type string, and again stripe payment ID, this is again of type string, and model version ID. Okay, model version ID, this is of type again string. Then model status, this is again of type string. Okay, next instance name, then instance class, this is again of type string. Then image URLs that are belonging to this project, this would be of string of arrays. Okay, and then zipped image URL, this again is type string. Then created at what time this project is created, so this would be of type date time, and for the default we'll give this as a now. Okay, yeah, and updated at, again this would be of type date time, and this is updated at. Okay, and which user, to which user this project belongs to, so we will have the user type and add relation here, so that is user ID of that user table will be associated with this. Okay, yeah, so this is the relation to our user table, and then user ID string. Okay, fine. Then afterwards here we have to give the list of shots also, like how many shots are left to generate images in this project. So here we'll have the shots, and this would be of type short array. We will see eventually, well, once I create that short table. Okay, and then credits left for this project. Okay, so default is 100. Okay, yeah, and then prompt wizard credits, that is generating prompts using OpenAI completion API. Okay, so this again default will give 20, and then payment, this again would be of payment array. Okay, fine. Now I will go and create short table. Okay, so here this will have attributes ID. Okay, this is primary key. Okay, so default, okay, we will give the same to other table, and this will have the prompt. Okay, and then replicate ID of type string, then status, again this is of type string, created at it is again date time, so default will give the current now. Okay, yeah, and then updated at of type date time, and just updated at. Okay, fine. Then the project with which this is associated, so this is how the relationship we are going to establish. So, and the fields which are associated is in this project ID, which I will create just beneath this project attribute, and this will reference the ID column of project table. Okay, yeah, and here the project id, this would be of type string. Okay, and then output url of each image for each prompt that is going to ask will generate image, right? So that output url this holds. Okay, and bookmarked, is it bookmarked? Okay, this is how we're going to keep track of. This would be of type boolean. Okay, and the default we will set it to false. Then blur hash. Okay, and this would be of type string. Then c, this would be of type int. Then here we will have an option to generate HD version of the image. So for that we will maintain HD status. So that is we'll define HD status enum for this. So default will say no. Okay, and here HD prediction ID. Okay, yeah, so this is again of type string. Then HD output URL, this is again of type string. Okay, yeah, so that is a short table. And then final one more table is the payment. Okay, so here the payment table, this would have the primary key string and id and the default the same. Okay, and then type, this is string, and the status again string, and the stripe session id. So again this would be of type string, then created at date time, so default now, and the project for which the payment was made, project. Okay, and the relation. Okay, so the fields again project id, which will create beneath this property, and it references id column of projects table. Okay, and project id of string, and we want this table name in the database as payments. Okay, so now if we see the HD status, that is enum we have to create. So let me create just beneath sorry, on top of model short. Okay, so that is enum HD status, and no, so pending, and then processed. Okay, these are the three status variables, that is no, pending, and process. So accordingly. Okay, yeah, then so for project we have added relation to the user, so the same we have to mention in the users table as well. That is the user can have many projects, so we should mention projects, and this should be of array of project table. Okay, yeah, so now the error is gone. So these are the ideally the tables needed for this project, that is project table and short I mean in each project how many shots that user can generate. That means that this is nothing but for each prompt we will be generating one image, right? So that is called a shot. Okay, and then payment, is payment made for this project or not? Okay, so this is the creation of the tables. So now what we'll do, we will so the command is this one. So if you see npx prisma migrate dev, and this is like version 2, let's give the name as version 2. Okay, and now we should be able to see the tables project, short, and payment in our database. So if you see here now, I didn't, yeah, so the reflection in avatar project short and payments is created. So that is the thing we wanted. So yeah, going back to the code section. So the now tables we want is created. So now let's go to the API section. That is in the API section, I'm going to create a new folder called projects, and in that we are going to create APIs that are associated or related to the project section. Okay, so just in this API folder I'm going to create new folder called projects, and in this I'm going to create a new file called index.txt. So here we'll start creating the API to create a project and also to get a list of projects. Okay, so let's start. So this is how we have to create ideally. So let's make this as asynchronous, and the input params for this would be a request of type next API request. Okay, and then response would be of type next API response. Yeah, so in this first we'll get the session of the user. So we'll only make sure if the session of the user is present, then only we'll let the user to access this API, or else we'll say you are not authenticated. Okay, so let me call get session method. Okay, and pass in the request parameter. Okay, and now here we will check if the session of the user is not found, then we will directly return the status 401 saying that you are not authenticated. Okay, so that is response.status 401, and in JSON the message that will be sending is not authenticated. Fine. So now okay, fine. So if the user is at the session of the user is found, then we will identify if the method is post or get. Okay, so if method is post, then we will create the project. Okay, so the params that will be receiving in our request body is URLs, okay, the studio name, and also the instance class. So let's collect all those params in separate variables. So first one is URLs, request.body dot URLs as string of URLs. Okay, and then the studio name. So this again would come from the variable name studio name as string. Okay, and then instance class. So again this name is instance class as string. Fine. So here we will create a project. So that is await db. So I'm going to import this db from our core db's util. Okay, and then here we're going to create the project db.project.create, and here pass in all the data for this columns. So first is image URLs, and this would be URLs attribute, and then name is studio name, and then user id will get it from session dot user id, and then model status. So we are just creating a project, so I will give it as a not created, and then instance class. So instance class will be stored in the instance class variable, or else if not given any, so we will just give by default person. Okay, yeah, then instance name. So instance name this we will get it from the environment variables next public replicate instance token. So this is nothing but the random token generated. So you can also generate like OpenSSL using OpenSSL. Okay, and 32 bits random number, and that you can use here. Okay, so ideally you have to configure in your environment section. So like this. So next public replicate instance token. Okay, so fine. So let's go back to the index file and then credits. So credits also we will get it from our environment file. So process.end.nextPublic studio short amount. Okay, if not we will give just 50. So let me configure that variable now. So going to the environment variables. Okay, so here I will configure that is, sorry, it has to be in caps, next public studio short amount. So I will give you a 20. Okay, depending on your use case you can define whatever the number you need. Okay, fine. So going back here, next we have to create a zip folder out of all the URLs. Okay, so for that I will collect that inside a variable called buffer and called create zip folder function, so which we will create inside our utils part. Okay, inside this utils I am going to create a one file called assets, and in that we are going to handle the logic to create a zip folder out of the URLs that we are receiving. Okay, so let me create a file called assets.ts. okay, and in this we will create the zip folder function. So that is create zip folder, and the input params for this function would be URLs, which is of type string array. Okay, and then the project name. So this project I'm going to import from Prisma. Okay, fine. And then first we are going to create an object of JS zip, so that dependency has to be installed. Okay, so you can refer that respective library package, so there you can have more details about this library. Okay, so that is so I'm installing that. Okay, so now I'm going to create the object of that JS zip. Okay, yeah, so let me import that first. Yes, so after this let's create one request array and then loop through all the URLs that we have received, that is urls dot length, and push into our request array. So I'm making use of access here, so URLs and response type array buffer. Okay, so then like that we are storing in our request array, and then this is like pretty little complex we to convert it to our zip folder. So then we are going to call Axios response the buffer. Okay, by passing in the request array which we have just created. Okay, now we are going to make use of that responses variable and then create a zip folder. Okay, fine. So first buffers promises, so make use of responses and map each response So take the buffer from response.data and then return smart. So it has to be, so again there is one more library that we need, that is smart crop shop. Okay, so that also you can refer its respective library for more details. So I'm installing that dependency, smart crop shop. Okay, so let's import that from this, and also let's define a two const variables, that is width and height of our image. Okay, so I will define both as 512. So similarly the height as well. Height also I will define it as 512. Okay, and here now we'll make use of that smart crop. Okay, and then call crop function by passing in the buffer object and also the width and height variables respectively. Yeah, and then what we do is, then we'll call the callback function here and store the result in a variable called crop, that is result dot top crop, and then we'll return shop. By passing in the buffer object and then extract. Okay, this sharp also I should import from a one more library called sharp. Okay, so I'm going to install that as well. Yes, then after this we're going to call extract function on this by passing in the parameters required for that, that is again the width. So here crop dot width, and then height, crop dot height, and then left crop dot x, then top crop dot y. Okay, fine. So after this we are going to resize it to the const variables which we have defined to width and height, and then convert it to our buffer. Yes, so now we will get all buffers in variable into buffers by again passing that buffers promise into our promise dot all function. Okay, yes, then finally we will create a folder using zip.folder function by passing the project.id and loop through the buffers array. Buffers array. Okay, and here anonymous function. Okay, fine, and in this we will make file name for each buffer. Okay, so that is url dot split by slash, okay, and then we are going to assign file name to buffer and make this as a true. Okay, fine. So this is how we are going to assign file name, okay, and then finally in a variable zip content I am going to generate async type as no buffer node buffer, and then this we will return. So finally this would be the zipped folder of our URLs we have passed. Okay, this is the util function. I know this is pretty complex, but if we refer the libraries of shop and smart crop shop, how to and zip, how to we zip our URLs by referring to their respective libraries, it will be easier for us. Okay, fine. So now the zip folder, create zip folder function is ready, so we'll go ahead and make use of this. Okay, so create zip folder by passing in our URLs and the project. Okay, and also now this zip folder should have to be pushed to our S3 bucket. So again here we need a dependencies S3 client. Okay, so for that we will install AWS SDK client tree library. Okay, fine. So let me install that AWS SDK client S3. Okay, so okay, fine. So let me pass in legacy peer dependency. So this should be added to our so now let's go to our index file. Okay, and here let's push above buffer to our S3 bucket. So here S3 client dot send new put object command here by passing in the bucket name. Okay, so this should be of S3 upload bucket, and then the key of this is project.id.zip. Okay, and then finally the body, which is buffer. So it's a small b. Okay, this is capital key, and S3 client. Okay, so let me import first. Let us create S3 client. Okay, so by going to our utils part, okay, in this core folder I will create a new folder called clients, and in that I'm going to create S3 client. Okay, so let me name the folder name as clients. Okay, and in this I am going to create a new file called s3.ts, and in this we are going to configure the details needed in order to access our S3. So first let me create the object name as S3 client and new S3 client, and here the things that we need to pass is the region. So here the region is upload region environment variable which we have configured, and then the credentials. So credentials here access key ID. So this is S3 upload key, and then secret access key. Again this is process.env.s3 upload secret. Yeah, so these are things required in order to create S3 client object. So now we will export this and make use of this in our project index file. So S3 client. Okay, so going back here, so we'll make use of import S3 client and make use of that. Okay, yeah, then after this we just return the response, okay, saying that we have created our project. Okay, fine. So this is how we are going to handle a post request in order to create a project. Okay, fine. So likewise we are going to handle the get request in order to get a list of projects as well. So let's define quickly that one as well here. So if the request method is get, then we are going to handle API call to get the list of projects. Okay, so this is going to be simple. So we are going to call db.project.find many, and here we are going to include user ID. User ID would be nothing but session.user ID, and what and all to include. So we will include the shorts, okay, and take 10, okay, and order by created at in descending order, okay, and finally this order by created at. Yeah, so this would give us the list of the projects, okay, and 10 shorts in each of the project if there are any. Okay, fine. So here we are going to loop through the projects which we got. Okay, so and in this, if project is having a replicate model ID and project's model status is not succeeded, okay, so then here we are going to call the trainings API call on replicate client and then update respective project. Okay, fine. So here await. So even we will create a client for a replicate thing. So inside the clients folder, I'm going to create a new file called replicate.ts, and in that we'll initialize the credentials for to access the replicate API. Okay, so let me create a new file, that is replicate.ts. okay, and in this, so replicate client and make use of Axios to create a base URL, and base URL is this, that is DreamBooth -API experimental .replicate.com. okay, and headers is where we have to pass the authorization token. So token, and this is how API token. So yeah, so again so those details are mentioned in our environment file. So here replicate API token and the username. Okay, so this is you how you can get this thing. So replicate.com and your respective account, you can generate a API token for that your account, and name would be your username of that account. Okay, so those are the details that you should configure in this env section. Okay, and yeah, so going back to this replicate. Okay, after this we have to pass in the content type. Okay, so content type would be application /json, and then accept encoding. Again this is would be of type any. Okay, fine. So these are the details needed to configure a replicate client. So we are going to export that. So going back to our index file, now we'll make use of that replicate client. Okay, and get the data. Okay, fine. So replicate client dot get the endpoint is trainings. Okay, then the variable that we should be passing is replicate model ID. Okay, fine. So once we have this, we are going to update that project by getting that respective project, that is id equals to project.id, and then data model version id would be data dot version, and then model status would be data dot status. Okay, so this is how we are going to update the what model version id and model status for respective project. Then finally we will return the response, so that is list of projects. So this is how the get list of projects API works, and we will export default as handler. Fine. So the API is needed to create a project and to get a list of projects is created. So now heading back to our uploader section. So this is where we should create a logic to handle creating a project. So let me add that logic here. First is okay, so inside here we will write a function to handle creating a project. Okay, so we are going to use the use mutation. Okay, so the name that we will create for this is handle create project, and is loading variable. Okay, and we'll use mutation hook from React query. Okay, and the name will create is create project. Okay, and in the callback function the things that we are going to call is axios.post. So we should import axios. Okay, and here the API endpoint is API slash projects which we have just created, and the body input param for this is URLs, studio name, and instance class. Okay, fine. Then here callback functions on success, what are we going to do? Okay, fine. So this for uploader function, the input param would be a callback function, that is handle and on add. Okay, this is of type handle add the function name. Okay, of this is callback function which receives no input params and just returns void. Okay, yeah. So on success we will call that callback function. Okay, and then reset all variables. Okay, that is reset set files to empty array and set URLs also to empty array, and then set studio name to empty string, set instance class again to empty string, then set upload state to not uploaded. Okay, and then finally show a toast. So toast, what will show is studio created, and then pass the other params, duration the 3000 milliseconds, and his closable true, and then position will give top right, then status success, so that it will be in green color. Okay, so this is the API call to handle creation of a project. So now this we will call in the here the button which we have here, you see create your studio button. So we will invoke that function here, that is inside here on click thing we are going to call handle create project. So this should ideally create a project as soon as the user clicks on create your studio, and we should receive a toast saying that the project is created. So let's check for this functionality now. So going back to okay, so I'm opening our localhost 3001. Okay, so first let's log in. So here the email, I'll pass my email. So first let's authenticate ourselves so that we can create a project. So going back to our Gmail inbox, so going here, signing in. So let me upload some random images. So let's take some random images, 5 images. Okay, so I'm calling here upload 5 photos button. So these images are being uploaded to our S3 bucket. So once all are uploaded, we should see the this one, yeah, studio name. So here let's create is check one. Okay, and this is for man. Okay, now on clicking on this create your studio button, the API call which we have just configured should trigger. Okay, so let's, there is some issue, I can see that. Yeah, you see here there is an issue. Fine. There is some authentication issue or session. Message is undefined. Okay, there is an issue with getting session.user_id. So for now I have hard coded the session.user_id value. So later part of the videos we will try to figure out the issue. Okay, so if you see now, I'll just showcase you the we are able to save the project details into our project table. So I'm just trying to showcase you guys that. So let's wait for it to upload to S3. So they are uploading to S3, and now so let me give the studio name as check3. Okay, and then I'm clicking on creating a studio. Okay, again issue. Okay, so if you go on check the inspect network tab. Okay, so let me, okay, yes, okay, I have removed here. So you see here studio is successfully created, and if you go on see the response of this, the ID and also the whatever URLs and all is created. So going back to the DB, I'll showcase you the thing. So if I run this, we should see, so you see check3 project is inserted into our project table, and as of now replicate model ID and all are null. So instance name and also the person, so these details are inserted into our projects table. Okay, so this is it for this video. So in the coming video we'll try to write the logic to get the list of the projects and way to showcase in our UI, and also a lot of stuff is going to come ahead. So thank you for watching this video.